The Foolish Frog.
Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, there was a small pond where many creatures lived in harmony. Among them was a frog named Freddie. Freddie was known far and wide as the most curious and daring frog in the forest. While most frogs were content to spend their days catching flies and hopping from lily pad to lily pad, Freddie always wanted more. But Freddie was also a bit foolish, never thinking things through before acting on his whims. One sunny morning, as the pond glistened under the warm rays of the sun, Freddie heard an unusual sound. It was a soft, melodic tune carried by the breeze. Freddie, curious as ever, decided to investigate. He hopped out of the pond and followed the sound until he reached the edge of the forest. There, on a large rock, sat a beautiful, gleaming flute. The tune seemed to be coming from the flute itself, even though no one was playing it. Freddie, fascinated by the instrument, decided he wanted to play it. However, being a frog, he had no idea how to handle such a thing. But Freddie was not one to let that stop him. He puffed out his chest and decided to give it a try. He stretched out his tongue and tried to tap the flute's holes, imagining he could mimic the tune. But as soon as Freddie touched the flute, something strange happened. The flute began to glow, and suddenly, Freddie felt himself being pulled into the flute. The next thing he knew, he was no longer by the rock, but inside a strange, enchanted world filled with swirling colors and sounds. Freddie hopped around, trying to figure out how to escape. He called out for help, but the only response he got was an echo of his own voice. Freddie began to panic. "What have I done?" he croaked, realizing that his foolishness had gotten him into trouble once again. As Freddie wandered through the colorful world inside the flute, he came across a wise old turtle named Toby, who had been trapped there for years. Toby explained that the flute was enchanted and would trap anyone who tried to play it without understanding its magic. Only those who truly respected the flute's power and understood the harmony of the forest could escape. Freddie, desperate to return home, asked Toby for help. Toby agreed, but only if Freddie promised to be wiser and more thoughtful in the future. Freddie eagerly agreed, realizing that his foolishness had not only endangered himself, but also others who might have tried to help him. With Toby's guidance, Freddie learned about the balance of nature and the importance of thinking before acting. He learned how to listen to the melodies of the forest and understand their meanings. Slowly, Freddie began to play a tune on the flute from inside the enchanted world, one that resonated with the harmony of the forest outside. As he played, the colors around him began to swirl faster, and the next thing Freddie knew, he was back on the rock by the edge of the forest, the flute lying silently beside him. Freddie was overjoyed to be free, but he also knew that he had learned a valuable lesson. From that day on, Freddie became known as the wisest frog in the forest. He still had his curiosity, but he was no longer foolish. He thought carefully before he acted, and he always respected the world around him. And whenever he heard a strange sound or saw something unusual, he would pause, think, and remember the day he almost got lost in a world of his own foolishness. And so, Freddie lived happily by the pond, sharing his wisdom with other curious creatures, making sure that none of them ever made the same mistake he did.